Go ahead. Ask your question.
Okay.
And we'll ask his too, because I'm in charge.
Pertaining to the library app that you were talking about, I use a similar thing with Firefox called Invisible Hand, which will, if you're on Amazon or something, it'll show you if another store has it for cheaper or not.
Uh-huh.
But what I run into is a lot of false positives. Are you going to have user error reporting, or do you have something implemented like that?
No, we don't have it right now, but it is something we need more work on. Our goal would be to do it using Kynetx, right? So something like the user voice side tab, something like that, where you can do reporting. We have a plan in terms of the whole client-side piece, which is yet to come to fruition, that includes not only user feedback, but also the ability for users to get additional information about apps. Now, Marketplace, does Marketplace have comments and other things in it? Not in this release. So Marketplace does have, which we'll show you later, will have the ability for users to comment, and that'll be another place where you can get comments. So one more question back there, and then we'll end.
I was just wondering, let's assume that Kynetx becomes wildly successful, and our users have several of these apps installed in their browser. How are you going to handle conflicts when they go to a site that would have a lot of potential traffic?
Okay, so the question is, how are we going to avoid conflicts? So there's a couple of answers to that. One answer is we control the runtime, and so we take care to ensure that the runtime doesn't conflict with itself. And in fact, the releases that were made just over the last week solve the problems that we have had in the past with multiple extensions causing multiple fires of a rule. And so we will make sure that the runtime doesn't conflict with itself and that multiple rules fire. If you go look at the runtime, of course, you can just download it and look at it. You can see in the JavaScript what it does, but it tries to make sure that we don't have that kind of run conflict. Now, in terms of other things, like, for example, you might have seen rules which annotate search results, or if you've been using the proxy here, you'll see that side tab. We write those actions so that they are smart enough, at least when we can, to not conflict with each other. So if you went to a page that had another side tab loaded, they would play nicely with each other. They'd adjust to each other and not overlap, right? And if you went to a Google search result and you had multiple apps installed that annotate the Google search results, we have firewalled them off from each other so that they play nicely with each other and they essentially cascade together. So there's things like that we do. Right? Now, there are some things where people are going to do something maliciously. Right? There's nothing that will keep you from writing an application which is designed to destroy 7-bound stuff. Right? I mean, you could. It's just JavaScript. Your terms of service actually disallow that, and so we'll just turn your app off if you're doing that. Right? So those are some of the things that we can do to help this problem. Now, and I'm not going to claim that we can solve this problem 100%. The fact that you can emit JavaScript means that you can do almost anything, and there's always going to be the chance for conflict. But when you're using our runtime and our language, we take care to make sure that they all play nicely with each other. So one more question, because I've been...
In that this is a world where consumers rule and they decide what they want to participate in. If I have two apps on the iPhone that conflict, I'm going to delete one of them if I don't like it. I don't think.
Yeah.
So this is.
It's working. Hold it up.
This is consumer control. So ultimately, each of us will decide what we want to do with what apps, and they will live and die by the value that they provide for us.
Okay. Last question. Then I promise Kristen will quit.
Okay. Phil, in the programming language, you talked about the different types of events and what is getting executed. But my question is there a way to find out who's executing it, like the identifier of the user, so that we can personalize the context of that user?
Okay, so the question is, how do we personalize apps? Right now, we're not using identity inside the browser extension or inside the information cards to personalize the apps. The way we're personalizing apps right now is through things like OAuth. So if you use the Twitter API inside your application, the user is going to need to authenticate to allow you to use their Twitter data that's a form of identification, right? When they use OAuth, they're identifying themselves for personalization purposes. Right now, that's the only identifying service which we have built into the system. It's not our intention to only have that, but right now that's how you would do it, is you'd use an OAuth protected data source and use the OAuth as the identity. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks. Kristen, turn it back to you.
Thank you.